Hey everybody, it has been a while. Didn't mean to drop off the face of the earth. Had some more videos to come out with. Just things started going crazy, and I just kind of took a step back, I guess, and never got back on the saddle. So apologize if any of you are looking forward to any more videos, but I wanted to just make a quick one. This isn't like a real well edited or scripted video or anything like that, but I don't know if you've noticed a lot of crazy stuff going on today, particularly with the election. And um, I mean, this is 2020. To say that I'm surprised by any of this is not really true. I don't know what to say about it, frankly. It's it kind of leaves you without much to say, frankly. But I wanted to say a couple of things just regarding a couple of things that are going on. Particularly one of the things that has popped up is this graphic, and maybe you've seen it before. I'll try to get it in here if I can. I'm not going to edit this too much, but there's this graphic where it shows the United States and it shows all the different counties and how many went red and how many went blue, and then it morphs and it shows you because you can see the counties are overwhelmingly red in the country, and then you're like, when you first look at that, you think, oh wow, it seems like the minority is getting away with something, and then it morphs and it shows you the populations basically of those different areas, and you can see, okay, there's a lot of people in those blue areas, and that makes sense. Now, some people are trying to conclude that this graphic speaks against the idea of the electoral college, which I look at this and I think, no, actually, this is the best case that you could possibly make for the electoral college, and I'll kind of explain why. So let's start off with this. If we look at this map, and if it's up here, you can see it. You'll notice that the areas that are predominantly red are predominantly rural areas, okay? And the areas that are mostly blue are predominantly urban areas. So if you look, places like Los Angeles, like Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, okay, these are all areas that are very, very blue. Then you go into the Midwest, the West, and really, just as soon as you get outside of those areas, it goes almost entirely red. Okay. Now, are the question? So there are people that are going to say, well, we should get rid of the electoral college because it disproportionately gives more voting power to people or to states that have lesser populations, and it's not fair that those people should have more voting power than people who are in urban areas, and so that's the more or less the argument. But here's the problem: are urban areas different from rural areas? The answer is obviously yes. Like, they're very different, as a matter of fact. Um, People who live in rural areas, I have a hard time saying that. Who decided to go with that word, rural? Anyway, yeah, they're very different. Since the lifestyles are different there, the industries are completely different there, and therefore the needs and concerns in both those places are going to be completely different. Now, what do the rural areas of the country produce predominantly? Well, they produce predominantly food. Is food important? Yeah, it's kind of important. What do the urban areas generally produce? Well, they produce a lot of things like art, like education, certain industries and things like that. Sure, those are all important. Medicine, those usually come from more populated areas, and yes, they are important. Are any of those more important than food? Is medicine more important than food? Which would you rather have, medicine or food? Over the course of a year, let's say you get to pick one. Well, you're going to pick food, right? How about the arts? Between food and arts, what are you going to take? Food. How about industry? Think of any products that you can think of. What it boils down to is, like, food is critical, okay, to the establishment of a country and the survival of a country. People need to eat. It's the most basic need that we have, basically, besides what? Air and water, right? So it's important that we are taking steps to ensure that we're protecting our rural population and making sure that their needs are addressed as well as the urban ones, right? But here's the problem: because the rural areas are so spread out and they are so, the population is so thin in those areas, if there was no if there was no electoral college and people, the voting was based just on the popular vote, no politician would ever even bother even talking to the rural areas. They would just go exclusively to the urban ones, and therefore the only issues that ever got addressed would be the urban ones. But as we said, the urban issues and the rural issues are very different. And so if the rural issues, I don't know how I'm going to get through this video saying rural over and over again. Is there a cinnamon? Is there a synonym I can use for it so I can stop using that term? I don't know. But um, yeah, basically, if the issues of the rural population are not addressed, it will implode. And if the food sources implode, the rest of the country implodes. And this is why the Electoral College was made to ensure that politicians cannot just focus on the problems of a specific way of life, right? Everybody's way of life is different throughout the country. We're all so, we have more in common, but the differences are also pretty significant, I would say, and profound. And so the Electoral College was a way of trying to balance that power, okay, and say, how do we make sure that we can address some of the needs of most of the population, but also give voice to the people that we need, and maybe have less of a voice or more of a minority in the country. Um, so yeah, I think that this graphic, I look at this and I think, yeah, thank God we have the Electoral College, or else our country probably would have imploded a long time ago. Because yeah, the needs and the concerns of people in those areas are way different from each other. It just is what it is, okay? And yeah, I think if you're going to call for the ending of the Electoral College, I think that's a pretty foolish endeavor. I think I don't think there's a lot of wisdom to it. I think, while our system is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, maybe there's some room for improvement. I kind of don't think that's one of them. Because here's the other question you really have to ask philosophically. Like, why should people in California be able to tell people in Nebraska how to live? Like, that's the question that we all have to ask. Like, you know, that's essentially what goes on. Um, and why? Should that be the case? Shouldn't the people in Nebraska be able to make their own decisions and have their own governance? Well, in order to form a union, we've had to make some compromises where it's okay, everybody, we have to work together and try to find ways to make it through life together as a country. How do we go about doing that? That's the real question. Um, but yeah, like I said, this isn't like a super thought out video. I'm just kind of throwing out some thoughts, and I think that, again, people are taking this to mean like, oh well, I. One of the things I think is very silly is to try to say that, oh, it's land ownership that gives you voting power. It's nonsense. Like, that's such sloppy thinking. I can't even. It has nothing to do with land ownership. That's just a byproduct. As it turns out, in rural areas, land is pretty prevalent and therefore pretty cheap, and so it goes for a lot cheaper. So it's easier to be a landowner. But it's not like if you moved out there and started renting, like your vote would be less than the landowners. That's not the case at all. So trying to blur those two things to try to say, oh, it's this makes it so that landowners get more of a vote in the country. It's utter nonsense. It's yeah, I don't even know where to begin, where to go with that. Besides that, it's sloppy thinking, and it's just not true. So, um, it's a correlation effect, not a causation effect. Those things are two very different things. Um, so anyway, so yeah, I look at this and I think, yeah, this is good. This is like the electoral college is a good thing. It helps to keep our country from absolutely imploding. Does it give people in Midwestern states more power per individual vote? Yes, that is the case. However, most of the power, most of the voting power is still going to these urban areas. And so it's a balance. It's a balance. And hey, if you want more voting power, go move to a rural state. You absolutely can do that if you want to. Um, and then, yeah, you'll have the same voting power as Nebraska or Kansas or wherever you want to go. So that's kind of the solution to that, I think. And I think that, again, trying to get rid of the electoral college, I think it's very wrong-headed. I think it's foolish, and I don't think it should be done. So, um, yeah, with that, I'm looking at the graphic here, by the way. So if you see me looking at it, that's or looking away, that's what I'm looking at. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it there for now. It's been 10 minutes of me just rambling. So, yeah, hopefully this. I don't know. Maybe some of you wouldn't hear this otherwise, but I figured I wanted to at least say it. So, hope you guys are having a good day. Hope you guys are getting through this election. Yes, it's crazy, man. Like this whole thing is nuts. Everything is crazy. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.